morning, class. Today we'll be discussing the transformation between a solid and a liquid. Now, when we're thinking about this transformation, we need to consider Pythagorean's theorem. Pythagorean's theorem is very important as we hypothesize what will be the conclusion. Now, as you're making your conclusion, it's important to consider your sentences that you will draft for your conclusion. It needs to have a subject, a verb, a noun, a preposition, and don't forget the adjectives. Any questions?
So here's what wise people know. Wise people know that if you have a healthy curiosity and if you're not afraid to ask, that's really a great way to grow because you're not, so uptight and you're not so arrogant to think you know everything, which can be a little bit of a challenge when you're parenting, right? Because you want your kids to ask you questions, but they don't. And the reason they don't is because they know everything. So a couple years ago, we were going on vacation, and we decided that one of the goals for our family was we wanted all of our children to get up in the morning, and the first thing that they did was make their bed. Little too ambitious. So what we did is we got this book, and we listened to this book, this audio book, while we were driving. We were driving for a while, and the name of the book is called Make Your Bed. Right, because that was our goal, and we thought this is great. It was written by a Navy SEAL. If you've read it, it's actually a really good book. And so we listened to the entire book, and we thought, man, this will be great because we'll all just understand all the cues and all the important concerns as to why it's important to get out of bed and make your bed. And so as a result of us doing that on that trip, I'm here to tell you that Aaron and I get up and make our bed every morning. But we already did before we read the book. So that was about the success of that. But it was written by a former Navy SEAL, and it unlocks the key to productivity in your day. And he says in the book that when you get up and you make your bed, what you're telling, and you're getting all your endorphins and all the chemicals in your brain to set that we're going to have a task-productive day. And the way to have a task-productive day is to start your day by accomplishing something small, and even something like making your bed is something that triggers your brain and triggers your body into going, hey, today, we're going to knock some stuff out. And you look at your bed and you go, look, I already knocked this out. And some of you are list makers and list takers. And isn't it true, some of you that are list takers and list makers, you write stuff on your list like make your bed because you know you're going to do it. And it's like you just, oh, man, felt good. Got that done. Made the bed. Oh, brush my teeth. Mark that off the list. All right, comb my hair. Great. Oh, man, it's going to be a great day. And that was sort of the premise of this book because what it does, if you don't, what it says, and you understand that, is we get into I'll do it later mode. And if we leave our bed unmade, it triggers our brain the opposite way where we begin throughout our day to go, I'll do it later, it doesn't matter, or my favorite excuse, what's it matter, I'm gonna be sleeping in there later. So you've probably never heard that before, but I'll just give you that one. So if making our bed is the secret to kind of a life, there's questions that we can have, and this is what wise people know. Wise people know that our life is connected, right? So what we do to start our day has implications for how our day ends. What we do in our 20s has implications for how our 40s are. What we do in our 40s has implications for our retirement because today's decisions become tomorrow's realities. These are the things that wise people know, and wise and discerning people know. They know that their entire life is connected, so every day, every moment, every season matters, and the present becomes the present because of the decisions that we made in the past. Now, the Bible in Proverbs says that only the naive, or we can use this word, simple people, naive people, live as if there's no connection to all the stages of your life. There's no connection for how you start your day to how you end today. That's what naive, and sometimes simple people do. So obviously, if you're a parent, you've been trying to instill this, you've been trying to impart this with your kids. Most likely, you've had a conversation with your children that said, your grades matter. And they've looked at you and said, why? What does it matter if I learn where the commas go? That I'm never gonna, I'm never gonna use this. I'm never gonna need that. And what wise parents are trying to instill in their kids is what you do and what you learn now determines what opportunities you'll have later, but you can't see that now. This is why coaches go blue in the face and they go, hey, we're putting in the work now so that we can enjoy success later. And good athletes know I'm going to begin to put the work in now so that it will pay off later. And naive and not great athletes, they go, well, it doesn't matter today. What I do today isn't going to matter that much. It matters when the game starts. And wise athletes go, no, that doesn't make any sense. And the truth is it's not just true of grades. It's not just true of sports. It's also true in music. It's true of our diet. What you decide to eat today will have implications for your health in the future. Because each stage, each season of life, there's going to be implications for how you live in this season will determine how the next season is. And Jesus begins to point this out, and he does it in such a way that is so brilliant. He talks about your life being like a house. And so he does in Matthew chapter 7, verse 24. He says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine, everyone who hears this wisdom that's being offered by Jesus, everyone who hears these things and then puts them into practice, those people are going to live differently because they're like a wise man. And this is where wisdom is, because they know the importance of starting right with the foundation. They get the importance of that, and they build their house upon the rock. And then to continue the story, we won't read all that one today. We've got others we need to get to. To continue that, he begins to say, and then guess what happened? This wise builder, he built his house on the rock, and then the storms came. And the winds blew. And because of the discipline that he had early by building his house on the rock, and that wasn't the easiest way to do it. In fact, that was a much more complicated way, much more expensive way to do that. The foundation served him well, and the house was not damaged. So this is what I want to do today. I've not done this before, so we'll just try this out, and if you don't like it, I'm sure you'll tell me, so that'd be great. So here's what I want to do. I want to split, like the first half, I want to talk to those who are 40 and under, right? 40 and under, maybe even single, 40 and under single, and then the second half, I want to talk to those of us who are 40 and over, okay? So that doesn't mean you can check out, because some of you need to take notes for your grandkids or take notes for your kids or whatever it is. So in this series, what we want to do is we want to connect the seasons of life and ask questions so that we can get at this thing that John the Beloved, Jesus' best friend, said, abundant living. The abundant life is sort of kind of found in these principles that we're getting here, and it's because we're able to ask questions. So the first thing I want to talk about is very simple. So 40 and under, now if you're 40 and over and have this, obviously it still applies, but you would tell the people who are 40 and under, do it now. Do it now. It's way harder when you get older. And that simply is get out of debt, right? Get out of debt. Now, what do I mean by get out of debt? If you're in debt, get out of debt. And I'm talking like your credit card, your standard of living, the things you upgrade all the time, your phones, your cars, right? Your perishable items. I'm not talking about your mortgage on this one. And then here's what I want to talk to you. If you're 18 or 19 years old in here, I want everybody who's over 40, I want you to think back to your 18-year-old self. And if you could tell your 18-year-old self, this is how much you'll make in 2021, what do you think your 18-year-old self would say? We make how much in 2021? We're good. This is fantastic. I can't wait till 2021 happens. But now, you live in 2021, and what do you think? Are you going, I got the good life? No. You're going, man, we can barely keep up. But 18-year-old you would be like, oh my Lord, way to go. So proud of me, right? But you're living right now going, oh my goodness, we can barely make it. And what happens is our cost of living drift kind of goes, and now all of a sudden, generic ketchup isn't going to be good enough, and we got to get the, honestly, generic ketchup's never really good enough, honestly. At our house, that would start a revolt if there was anything but Heinz. So I don't even know why I said that. That's a terrible idea. You should never do that. But I want to keep this momentum and this movement going. And so here's what people who get serious and they get going. They get serious and they pay off loans. They pay off credit cards. They manage how much they spend and they stick with it. And they've learned the secret that if they can become disciplined now in the future, and those of you who are living debt-free now, you know that you can enjoy it. And we talk about this several times a year. We just kind of bring it up, keep it in the forefront of your mind, is because if you're a Christian, now if you're not a Christian, this does not apply to you. It's just like good advice. But if you are a Christian, this is mandatory. Because if you said Jesus is the leader of my life and I'm living my life for Jesus, then this is a mandatory statement because debt makes you a slave. Isn't it true? You're slave to that car payment. You're slave to your credit card payment. You're a slave to the Gap card. I don't know, whatever it is. You're a slave to the Target Red card, right? But I say 5%. Oh, cute. That's awesome. Right? You're a slave to that. And Jesus says you can't serve two masters. You'll be torn. It will tear you apart. And this is why it's such a big deal, especially if you're single and if you have debt. Here's what I want you to go. Financial bad decisions make you less attractive if you're single. You just need to know that. It's like it lays an uncertainty towards your future, and you'll have your bad habits will become somebody else's problem. So unless your strategy is to marry somebody who's rich, and if that's your strategy, then you need to be upfront with them. And I do a lot of premarital counseling and talk with couples, and sometimes I go, oh boy, did y'all talk? You know he's got a U-Haul full of debt. And as a result of that, you may lose a relationship over pictures of dead presidents. You may. But there's another reason. And this one's even more important than the first. Your financial bad habits in your 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 will actually hurt you in following God. Because God may ask you or call you to do something, or there may be a career, an opportunity for you to serve, and you won't be able to do it because you have too much debt. So getting serious about your debt may be the first step in discovering God's will for your life, and you don't want to miss out on that, so let's get debt free on this one. And so getting a financial mentor is important. My financial mentor is in here today on retirement, where I sat down with him and I said, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. What do I need to know? And he took time and he spent time with me and walked me through things and said, this is probably what you want to do. And this is kind of where you'd want to go and all these kinds of things. Find a mentor. And if you don't have a mentor, earlier in 2022, we're going to start another Financial Peace University class. You may want to be a part of that and pay attention to the next one. So next one for 40 and under. Sometimes if you're single, here's what I also want you to know. This key to abundant living, abundant life is this. We talked about make our bed earlier, but one of the things you're going to want to do before 40 is clean out your closet. Clean out your closet. And by cleaning out your closet, I'm talking about deal with all your baggage, all your heart issues, your anger, right? Keep an eye on that, your jealousy, your greed, your fear, your insecurity. You're going to need to keep that and clean that out of the closet, because some of you have been holding on to stuff for a long, long time. And the events of your past that you still haven't dealt with, they're carrying over, and they're prohibiting your current relationships to thrive. They're prohibiting maybe future jobs to take place. And one day Jesus gets in an argument. Jesus gets in an argument with religious leaders about the technicalities of dietary law, of what they could eat, what they couldn't eat, and they were missing the point about what they were supposed to do. And this is why we got to clean out our closet. Matthew chapter 15, verse 17. And it's so important that we just kind of pay attention to this one. He says, don't you see, and this is all the things in our past, what we've done, don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? Jesus, it's kind of nasty. Well, it's biology. I mean, it's true. It's not like he's not lying. He didn't say where, right? It comes out of the body. And that's kind of an insult. And then he says, but the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart. And these are the things that defile people. It's not what you eat that defiles you. It's the things that you've been holding on to forever. It affects the way that you have relationship with one another. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts. And this whole time you thought it was your mind. Oh, I shouldn't think that. I shouldn't think that. I shouldn't say that. Oh, I should know better than that. I'm sorry, I'll never say that again. I'll never do that again, right? And Jesus says, whoa, it's out of the heart comes all your evil thoughts. No, my heart's clean. I asked Jesus to live in my heart. Jesus goes, let's hold that. Stick a pin in it for a minute. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defile a person, but eating with unwashed hands does not defile them. Now, if you are a child, this is not an excuse for you to not wash your hands before dinner, okay? That's not what he's saying. These are the things that need to be dealt with, and these are the things that you have to get out of the closet as soon as you can. And I wish somebody would have talked to me earlier in my life about getting and dealing with some of these things, because, you know, these are all heart issues. And when you're single, you can avoid the people that push your buttons, right? You can avoid them. You can see them coming, and you can go the opposite way. And you can begin to look at people and go, well, that's your issue. That's not my problem. That's your problem, not me. But when you begin to get married and you have kids, you know, you're going to bump into them, and you can't avoid them. And you're going to most likely think that it's their problem. But it may be a result that you haven't cleaned out your closet. And the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be, because you're going to tell yourself that it's normal. That it's just normal. And that I don't like these kinds of people, and those kinds of people annoy me, or worse, if it's in your family. And so most of the time, people think one, maybe not two, like, yeah, getting out of debt, that makes sense, but I don't understand why I have to deal with all of my hurt and my pain and my sin. I don't understand that. Well, if you believe one and not the other, then you're probably a hypocrite. Because guess what? If you're single, if you're 18, 20, you're 25, you're 30, when you meet the love of your life, guess what you're hoping they've already done? You're probably hoping they've gotten out of debt and they've cleaned out their closet. True? I mean, could you imagine, you know, that you find out that you you find the love of your life, and then all of a sudden, oh man, how are we going to pay for that? Whew, here we go. Or on this one, you meet the love of your life, and you're having dinner one night, and they're like, oh, and by the way, I don't have any credit card debt. Does that make that person more attractive or less attractive? Right. So are you willing to become the person that you need to be, because it's also the person you're looking for? Now, none of this is new. This is all stuff you would expect a preacher or a pastor to say. None of that's nothing. It's not the point. And for you in our debt-fueled, dysfunctional culture, each of these steps represents a step of you moving forward. And each of these moments kind of represents God's faithfulness becoming live and real in your life. And this is why, for more than anything else, if you get nothing else out of today and you're under 40, I want you to figure out, how can I reduce my debt? And what's one thing I can clean out of my closet? What's one bill I can pay off? And what's one thing I can start to deal with that's stuck in my closet? What's one emotional baggage thing that it's time. It's just time to get rid of all these things. Now, if you know all of this stuff already, great. Because the second group I want to talk to you today is the group that's 40 and over, right? Because here's what you have if you're 40 and over. You have a treasure chest of life experience. And if you don't do anything with all of that knowledge that you've accumulated, you'll die, and it will die with you. I mean, think about this. You've raised your kids. Many of you have raised your kids, or they're in high school, or they're in college. Some of you have navigated marriage. Some of you have, been married, been divorced. Some of you have remarried, and you've been through those stages of life. And you've experienced highs of a career. You've experienced the lows of a career. You've experienced the highs of an economy. You've experienced the lows of the economy. You've faced sickness. You've faced question of faith. You've faced, disappointment. You've had the opportunity to kind of walk beside aging parents and figure out how all of those pieces get there. You've gone through transfers perhaps at work. You've had fears. Many of you have had miscarriages, and there's something that happened in you, and you've been able to be healed as a result of that. Some of you have had fertility struggles, and you have acquired valuable wisdom. And that is a wealth. Wisdom is a form of wealth. And the question that I want to ask you today is, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with all of that wisdom wealth that you've accumulated it? what I want to encourage you to do is pass that along to people who are coming behind you. Now, I know you tried with your kids and they're not interested. I get that. I understand. And while all this is true, one of the things that I want us to look at today is the parable of the talents that Matthew talks about in chapter 25, because he says that the kingdom of heaven is like servants, and they all get 3 different amounts of money and their ability, and one gets 5 and 2, 1 bags of gold, and they're expected to multiply it for the master's benefit. And the irresponsible servant gets all the attention because he buried his opportunity. So Matthew chapter 25, and we're going to start reading at verse 19. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled the amounts. One has gotten 5, one's gotten 2, and they've got these little bags of gold. They have wisdom, or they have wealth. They have wealth. They've been given wealth. And the question is, what did you do with your wealth? The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5, and master, he said, hey, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I've gained 5 more. And his master replied, hey, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things, and come and share your master's happiness. Come, share your master's happiness. And as we read that, your experience, both good and bad, the things you just knocked out of the park and the things that you royally screwed up, is a bag of gold of wisdom. And you have an opportunity for those who are 40 and over to invest it. Please don't bury it or allow it to be buried with you. And the context that you can't understand is the people who buried it. It says, the master in verse 26 says, you wicked and lazy servant. Which maybe a better translation might be, you had an opportunity and you threw the opportunity away. And I don't know about you, but my life has been impacted by people who invested their time in me. I remember when I first started, I was a youth pastor out in Virginia, and I was very fortunate to have a guy named Jim. Jim was a pastor on staff, and he just would say, hey, let's get together at Cracker Barrel on Thursday morning. All right. Why? Because, I just had a brand new degree, so clearly you don't give those to people that don't know anything. So I said, okay, why? And he says, here's what we're going to do. Let's get a book. And let's just read through it. And he started, honestly, there were Bible commentaries. That's where we started, literally. Bible, when we'd read those, and he'd talk about a section or a chapter in them at a time. And I get that. And that made an impact on me early on. And throughout my life, there's been other people that I've just gone and said, hey, would you have some time? I just need to ask you some questions. And so if you're over 40, you kind of have two options in mind. You can, you can hope that Sunday school comes back and that you can drink coffee every Sunday with people that's your own age, or this is an opportunity for you to redeem some of your failure and redeem some of your life experience. Because here's what I know. Your kids are already tired of your stories, right? They are. And your grandkids are too young to appreciate it. And you want to be appreciated. And if nothing else, investing in someone else individually and bringing them alongside of you, if nothing else, that just means there'll be more people at your funeral. So that's a good thing, right? And you'll want that there. But here's the objection that I hear all the time. My life isn't that special. I've not won any awards. My life's not that special. I don't know anything. And here's the hardest thing to help people understand. Is you don't realize how much you know, because you may just be one click ahead in life than somebody else. Things you take for granted because you just know them. So what are you going to do with all this stuff? You going to bury it like the people in the parable? And bury those things because you can't hang on to it, right? Don't bury it. And one of the things we want to try to do as we enter into 2022 is we think this is actually going to be the key to like discipleship. Because for many of you, you're just attenders, right? You attend GatheringPoint and you check in online, or you're on the app, or you show up here and you attend and you leave. You attend and you leave. And that's great. That's a great first step. But we want something so much more from you than just attendance. We don't want at the end of your life for you to be like, and well, tell us about your dad. Tell us about your dad. Oh, he was one heck of an attender. We want more than that for you. We want you to become a disciple of Jesus. And the problem with that is that's a very, very slow process. Can't manufacture them. Can't assembly line them. Can't mass produce them. It just happens one at a time. And so as we head into 2022, whatever stage of life you're in, we want you to find people and have coffees with people that are maybe one click ahead of you, and some people that are maybe one click behind you. And figure out these things of what does it mean to have faith intersect in these moments. Because it looks, and this, I promise this is going to happen. You're going to go to somebody and be like, it looks like your family, man, your kids, they have it all figured out. It's amazing. You know what they're going to tell you? Oh, no, man. Whew, there were some years. Oh, my goodness. It was so hard. We didn't know. We didn't know what was going to happen. But this is what we found out. We found out God was faithful in the midst of that. And you're going, man, I don't know if God is faithful. Like, yeah, I've been there. I understand that. What did you do? Well, this is what started and began to make the difference in my life. Well, that sounds simple. How do I do it? See, this isn't a program. It's not calculus. It's not, nuclear physics, any of these kinds of things. It's having the desire to get better so that the foundation you lay today can withstand the storms of tomorrow. And so maybe the biggest hurdle you have to get out of right now is getting out of debt. It's just crushing you and your family. Maybe it's time to get serious about getting rid of some of that emotional baggage. You just need to clean out your closet. And for others of you, maybe the act of getting with people and talking with them in one-on-one circumstances may trigger something in your own life and your own faith that begins to prepare the next season of ministry for you. So please, be open and curious and ask people, do you have any questions? Because we all have questions. Can I pray with you today? Father, today in a minute we want to sing songs, and I want you to help us this morning evaluate our excuses. Well, we'll get out of debt when? What is that, God? What is that thing? What is that when? And why? Or I will deal with that emotional issue or that emotional trauma when? When is that, God? How about now? Or I will invest in somebody's life when? God, would you this morning, as we just take a minute to sing a song together, would you help us to figure out what the excuses are in our life and who we're blaming and why we're blaming? And can we submit that to you this morning? It's in your Son's name we pray.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us online today. If you found the content helpful and added value to your life, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. That way you're the first to know about new content that gets added. Thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to see you next week.